Hello everyone, welcome to a panel discussion on optimizing operations with artificial intelligence in the education sector. We are excited to explore how AI is transforming education by enhancing learning experiences and streamlining administrative tasks. Artificial intelligence offers a multitude of benefits for education. AI driven platforms provide personalized learning experiences, tailoring educational content to meet individual student needs. This personalization not only improves learning outcomes but also identifies and addresses learning gaps more effectively. So, today we have a distinguished panel of experts who will share their insights and experiences with AI in education. Adding to the excitement of today's session, we are honored to have Dr. Thomas Conway, a pioneering scholar in regulatory affairs and AI. As program coordinator at Eastern Ontario's largest polytechnic, Dr. Conway is revolutionizing education and industry practices. Focusing on pharmaceuticals, agrochemicals, and medical devices, he is a strong advocate for AI integration and equity, ensuring technology benefits for all. So let's dive into his insights on the future of education and technology. I welcome you, Dr. Thomas.
Well, thank you, Aarsh, for that, Rujali, for that excellent introduction. I pleased to be here. I'm excited whenever I hear of a new firm like Gravitas coming up and providing access to AI services and products for a wide range of people. Because one of my main themes in AI work is equity and social justice. I spend a lot of time on those issues, and I also obviously spend a lot of time on the challenges of integrating AI across systems at the higher education level. I just finished with our college's AI task force. Now I've been appointed to the next 5-year strategic plan for our college as the AI person on the working group. So these issues are really dear to my heart, and primarily from the perspective of equity and fairness, because one of the main issues for me is the digital divide and the problems that we're seeing with AI opportunities. Certain segments of society, particularly those from wealthy families, can gain access to the best of AI, but we have a big country like Canada with a small population. We have lots of marginalized populations. So we have our Indigenous peoples. We have a lot of situations where we go from leadership in AI. Ontario is probably one of the leading skill sets in the world on AI, but at the same time, we also have this dichotomy of challenges with AI in our society, just simply because of the infrastructural costs of bringing the technology to more remote areas. So these are my main themes and my main issues. I've spent a lot of time writing on these subject matters, advising other organizations, other small firms. But my work with small firms is not commercial. It's purely trying to guide the development of tools that will meet the needs of this generation and future generations in adopting AI equitably. That's my primary concern.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing more information about you. It's pleasure to host you. Also, we are joined today by the co-founder of Gravitas AI, Mr. Aarsh Srivastava. Welcome, Aarsh.
Thank you, Rishali, and very glad to be on the same panel with Mr. Thomas. So looking forward to have very interesting discussions today.
Same here. So let's start with a short and exciting fireside chat. So, Thomas, starting with you, what are the essential first steps for higher education institutions, according to you, to integrate AI?
Yeah, I mean, one of the tendencies I find with some AI people and institutions is to be fascinated by the technology, which they rightly should be, but to then think that the solution is recruiting one large language model, and that's going to solve all of their problems before they even understand what their problems are, let alone the fact that a single LLM will not be malleable to every situation that they have. So Forgive me if people don't understand the terminology. Large language models is one form of AI. It's the AI we think about when we look at ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. But there's a tendency to believe that you're going to say, oh, geez, let's just get everybody a Copilot subscription or a ChatGPT subscription, and everything is going to be rosy and dozy, and we're going to be able to do all the things that all these fancy people are talking about on LinkedIn and at conferences, teachers conferences, and so on. But that's not the way it's going to unfold. It's going to be much more strategic than that. AI is not going to be cheap to institute. It's going to cost money. And so one of the first things I tell people is you need to do a constructive needs assessment for your institution. I mean, where do you want AI to have a positive impact? First, you have to know that. Well, a positive impact in teaching. Well, in what areas of teaching? I mean, what is it that you're after? What is it that you're after in terms of improving the performance on your outcome metrics? What is it that you're after in terms of helping your professors to move up the empathy ladder so that they can exercise more personalized guidance to students? I mean, all these things, and then all these things have to be done through a needs assessment. You have to do a needs assessment for your institution, and that needs to be systematic. And we have kind of started to do that quite a bit in our college, but now we're entering what I would call the second phase, which is your strategic planning phase. AI is not going to be introduced by saying, hey, let somebody sign a check. AI is probably going to be introduced across an entire institution through a phased strategic process. It's because budgets, just for most institutions, unless you're Harvard or Stanford or somebody that has a huge endowment, the bottom line is that implementation of AI is going to be phased in strategically within your strategic plan. So I talk about that in terms of mainstreaming, the concept of mainstreaming AI into your academic planning, into your budgets and investment over a 5-year period, because that's the only realistic way that most institutions, except for the most wealthy ones in the world, are going to be able to afford to become fully AI collaborative institutions. That's the only way. Then the final is doing your infrastructural and needs assessment as well. I mean, do you have everything you need? I mean, on security, on making sure that you're able to assess data. What is the quality of your data? A bias on all of the things that are required to ensure that whatever data you're giving to the LLM to specialize your tools is appropriate across various ethical needs. And then once you've done that, you can start running pilot projects, right? I mean, because even if you've done your needs assessment, your strategic plan, your infrastructure, you should still be doing pilot projects, because some things will seem like, oh, look at what we could do with this, because it is fascinating, right? I mean, some of the stuff is amazing, right? But there's a tendency to kind of say it's amazing, so therefore it will be amazing for us. It's like, meeting a new partner in life, right? Everybody tells me this person's amazing. Then you go out on a blind date, you think, oh, that was a terrible blind date. It's the same thing with AI tools, right? You need to pilot test these things and roll them out in a phased way. So, but this is typical of new technology, right? I mean, everybody kind of gets all fired up, It's the car with the newest thing. It's all of these kinds of things, until you realize that integrating AI across a big institution that has 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 students is not something you can just do. It's something that takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, collaboration with industry providers, collaboration with regulators and government officials, collaboration across academic institutions. This is far too complex and far too important to the future of education to bumble through, right? You need to have a systematic approach to the whole process. And you'd be surprised to how many people that's what should be a simple concept is surprising because, well, I can just sit down, I can just do really cool things with the LLM. Well, that's fine, but you're not doing enrollments. You're not doing data analytics on student progress. You're not doing, you know, deep research into, clinical trials for a pharmaceutical. You're not doing, these require specialized tools, right? They're not. You're not going to get an LLM off the shelf that's going to be able to do that, right? It's like me trying to buy a suit when I was weightlifting a lot. Huh? I couldn't get anything off the rack. I had to get it tailored, and that's the example I use for academic institutions when I speak to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
like Thomas has already covered the length and breadth of everything. So yeah, definitely, I totally agree with all the pointers. And we have to look forward, and we have to look forward with an eye of like having sustainable solutions which are user centric, secure, compliant, and scalable. So we have
right.
to look through those lenses, and that will only come when a proper need assessment is done. So design thinking is very much essential in terms of like getting into even to POCs, because ultimately understanding each and every stakeholder, their needs, and then reflecting back on it is very much important. Traditionally also IT projects are done in the same way, but here it becomes more important because what we're trying to do is trying to mimic the intelligence of humans, and this is something which will require to remove a lot of cognitive bias, and that can only be done by understanding more about the users. So the more we develop the solution in a way that solutions are guided through the users, the better it will be. Plus, at the same time, we should have regular feedback loops in the whole process, so that we can have surveys or focus group discussions, constant reviews coming in of the solution which is being developed to with different kind of segments. We have to identify the user personas, the personas which will be using the solutions, and trying to then get them on board to test the solutions, so that we can remove the bias of the developers or the project managers or the business analysts who are trying to develop the solution. Because ultimately, when you're trying to mimic human intelligence, we all come from our different backgrounds, baggages, the experience which we have in our lives. So we come with all that baggage, and we try to like reflect a project which is top quality, but at the same time there is some sort of bias which will definitely creep into the systems. So definitely getting user research at every point of the whole project life cycle in, and even after that, because as also Thomas said, that things keep on changing, requirements keep on changing, things will evolve also in terms of technology. How we do things today will be totally different to what we do it after 3 years. So it has been like that. I've been into AI industry for last 10 years. The way we started the projects, when we launched the first ever healthcare chatbot in UK back in 16, so that was very different. Like we had to spend a lot of effort. It was about a year's project to develop a chatbot, which is not the case these days. 5 years before, like we started working on the annotation of the documents, and it was a big project again for getting about 6,000 documents annotated and trying to get answers and queries out of that those documents. But now it's just you drop in the documents, you get the information. At least you get the generic information. And then it's very important, as Thomas also said, that it's important to have that specificity in the solutions. You have to understand that okay, LLM models, just bring it up, it will not answer you everything, because ultimately the users need to get the answers which they want, and it will be very different in different scenarios and specific cases. So use case driven developments which are more user centric, and with the caveat of like being secure, scalable, compliant, and ethical is very much important.
Thank you, Thomas and Aarsh, for sharing and addressing this crucial topic. And these initial steps, as mentioned by you both, are crucial for higher education institution to integrate AI effectively. And as Thomas also mentioned, that by focusing on clear objectives, building the necessary infrastructure, strategic planning, and starting with the pilot test, institutions can ensure a smooth and strategic implementation. So definitely this approach allows for gradual adaptation and maximizes the positive impact of AI on educational outcomes and operational efficiency. So moving towards our next question. So Thomas, how do you see the role of educators evolving with AI integration in higher education?
think we've lost Thomas, your voice.
Yeah. Can you
You're
hear me
back.
again?
You're
Yeah.
back now.
Yeah, yes.
You can, you can see what happened just since, well, just go chat GPT 3 to chat GPT 4.0. Go from Claude's first issue to Claude Sonnet 3.5. Go from early thinking about what perplexity can be to what perplexity is now. These are all examples of the rapid transformation that we're seeing here, and therefore I think we're going to move from a phase that we're using AI now, which is essentially some fairly basic uses to streamline administration, simple tasks, some preparing course plans, lesson plans, that kind of thing, which is normal. It's natural. It takes time for this kind of technology to be upgraded to the level that maybe some of us are using it, but at the end of the day, it's going to become common practice that we'll be doing a lot of different things. We'll be doing much more substantial research in areas that AI opens up opportunities, on biomaterials, on risk assessment of chemicals, risk assessment of pharmaceuticals, all the way to more pure teaching functions. We will be doing very sophisticated grading and personalized learning. We will be doing we won't be doing static rubrics where the assignment is over and this is the score you get. We'll be doing we'll be grading based on process rather than final product, because AI will allow us to do that. The learning experience will be much more dramatic. We will be reintroducing old teaching methods that AI has now reopened. For example, storytelling. It might seem strange to some of you, but storytelling used to be a way that we taught, right? I mean, it used to be all of our cultures, right? The Irish had the Irish shaman, right, who used to sit around the fireplace and teach the young kids about how to survive and how to be successful, good husbands and good wives, and so all these kinds of things through basically storytelling. The North American indigenous peoples, it's a huge part of their culture. But we're getting back to where AI can be now a way to take complex concepts and turn them into more dynamic stories where concepts are applied to real, scenarios, and a story is being told, let's say, of a doctor thinking through a problem, or a nurse thinking through a problem, or an engineer thinking through a problem. Oh, this is a real problem with how we're going to build this bridge. What are my possibilities? And it's going to get really sophisticated like that, all the way to virtual reality. We're going to get into virtual reality where we often talk about experiential learning now in education, right? Where we got to make a partnership with an industry to get our students a trial job. Well, experiential learning is now going to become something that plus a lot more, right? We're going to be able to run actual experiential learning in the virtual world. And this is not that far away, folks, okay? This might sound abstract, but actually we can do a lot of it now. The problem is that right now it's still too expensive, and it's still too technically intensive. And most professors will never have that degree of technical expertise. So the tools have to be built to allow that, right? And at the same time, in order to get to that point, we have a major professional development challenge, right? We have to train a generation of higher education teachers and professors on AI. I mean, some of us are crazy enough to get way out in front on this stuff, but the bottom line is that we don't matter, right? It's bringing everybody along. That's what's going to matter in the end to equity, to fairness, and to more and more students getting exposed to what AI can do to improve education. I'll stop there. I could talk about this issue for another 2 hours, but I know that Aarsh will have some interesting things to say also.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and also like very interesting subject to understand from a different perspective, because the education has evolved, and educators have pulled up the socks, and they have gone through this that change constantly. And with technology evolution, new things have come up. It's Mr. Thomas talked about the experiential learning labs and how experiential learning is now being put into the picture more. So when we were children, we were not into that mode of doing a lot of experiential learning. But now these days, it's more into practice. Even I'm into working with some colleges, I do feel that things have changed quite substantially, and this will keep on happening with the change of technology, change of thought process. How we evolve as a society also contributes a lot to this. So definitely, like, a lot of things will change from educators perspective, but also at the same time the technology providers have to understand that they are trying to get into a sector and provide some technology solutions, which is going to impact how the education sector will move. So it has to be very responsible in that they have to be very responsible in that area, that they need to understand how to pace up the technology alongside the education system, so that the professors or the educators, they don't feel the burden of technology, rather than to see the technology as a friend of theirs, to be used for different purposes, so that it can help them and take things forward. Even one of the interesting use cases I was discussing, I think the other day around, which is very close to my heart. I want to see it getting live sometime, because the delivery, how you deliver to the particular students. So here on, what happens right now is as an educator, you get into a class, you try to deliver something, and it's delivered in a seamless, consistent manner. That's all fine. But the people who are sitting on the other side, the students, they perceive different people perceive different things very differently. Some people like to get communicated through videos. Some people like textual things. Some people like to understand more from graphics. So maybe like sometime, some day, we can get to a stage where we can have that delivery being transformed into the modes of communication people want to achieve, get it. So these are the things which will come into practice as things evolve, because this technology has picked up in the last decade a lot for commercial usage. But even so, in the last couple of years, 3 years, it has picked at a very rapid pace, and from here on it will be exponential, because now the computational power has increased a lot. We traditionally, when I was a student and I was studying about AI, so we used to discuss about neural networks, and now neural networks is a concept which has evolved further more into deep learning and the LLM models. So as it grows more, the computation power increase a lot faster, and like we will be chasing technology, but at the same time technology has to be at pace with the kind of sector it is dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Thomas and Aarsh, for sharing your insights on this interesting topic, and adding to your discussions that the integration of AI will transform educators into facilitators and mentors rather than just information providers. So, we can definitely say that this evolution allows educators to dedicate more time to personalized student interactions and innovative teaching strategies, and thus in the long run it will enrich the educational experience for students. And as a result, educators will play a crucial role in guiding students through a more tailored and engaging learning journey, and they will foster their critical thinking and creativity. So, moving to our next segment, that is the myth busting round, where we'll be debunking the common myths. So, Thomas, how do you address concerns about AI biases and inaccuracies in educational decisions? Yeah, Thomas, actually, you're not audible properly.
Yes,
Not yet.
not
Yeah,
yet.
now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, I'm over. I'm in the new country. Huh? You're the the yeah. As I was saying, that's the first thing I tackled when I took up AI, because in our regulatory affairs program, we were quite early adopters, because the field of regulatory affairs is already heavily penetrated in the workforce by AI. So we needed to be way out in front. And one of the first things I needed to deal with is, the lack of trust of my own faculty in terms of doing this. And surprisingly, the trust of my own students. A lot of people talk about students, they'll come in and they'll use AI and they'll cheat and they'll do all these kinds of things. I found quite the opposite, actually. It took me a long time to get my students to use AI because they were afraid to transgress our academic integrity policies, and they take pride, right, in their work, right? So they don't want it to seem like somebody else did it. So what I did, but I looked at the field and I said, there's just too many concepts. How am I going to communicate this to my students? And so I came up with a very simple concept to deal with this question, which is called the doubt first principle. I developed the doubt first principle, which basically requires them to do three things: factual verification, ethical consideration, and contextualization of everything that AI produces. So now they all walk around using that term, the doubt first principle, because it's a lot easier than using contextualization, blah, 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 whereas I gave them one concept and now they're all trained on what we call the doubt first principle. And that looks at making sure that, and that makes them sensitive to the fact that there can be bias in AI systems and large language models, well, all AI systems really, but large language models in this case. And that proved to be very successful. I mean, they say, and then they tell me what they learned from AI, and then they'll go, and I doubt first principle this by doing this, and this, right? Which you would almost never get if you left all of the concepts loose and flying all over the place, right? Because it's just too complicated. There's too much to remember. Basically, you need to give them one principle that they understand and that they can apply to all of their work. And we also expect that of professors, right? I mean, it's the same thing. And then the other thing I did was try to move on our academic integrity principles. I tried to say that we need to upgrade our academic integrity principles because the old way of referencing just doesn't work, all right? The old way of saying this is my work and that's your work, because you're dealing with static books, static journals, static articles, doesn't apply to AI if you're using AI in the right way, which is using AI to do critical thinking and using AI as a collaborative creative partner, which means you're back and forth. And I teach them prompting on back and forth, different types of prompts for research and so on. And so I also developed another key concept, which we call our AI use transparency form. And it's a form that, there's a simple version and a complex version. The simple version is if you're just doing a short paper or whatever, then you use the form to declare the process you used with AI. You don't reference you tell me, how did you get from point A to point B? That's what I'm interested in learning, okay? Because to do otherwise is to teach them that AI is bad. But AI is not bad, right? AI is what they're going to need when they get out in the workforce. So it can't be bad. It has to be good. But one of the key ethical principles we must follow, though, is that not only must it be good, but in order for us to be good, we must declare how we used it. That's the only requirement. And so those two things were instrumental. They sound like two simple concepts, but they're actually critically instrumental in moving AI into academia. Those two things, and that helped a lot, because then all of a sudden my students went, oh, so I can use it, but I just have to declare how I used it, and I have to declare how I applied the doubt first principle to it. Oh, okay, I can do that, right? And then they run off and they work on it, and I'm telling you, like the quality, I mean, pre-AI, post-AI, I mean, forget about it, right? Pre-AI, they would go out and find 2 or 3 case studies and write their paper and think they were being comprehensive. Now, I tell them, look, with everything that's out there right now, you come back with 30 papers backing up your findings, right? because AI is like not only a paid assistant, but a paid team of assistants. And so, therefore, there's no excuse to hand in a paper with just 3 case studies. And what does that mean? That means my students are getting exposed to a lot more points of view, a lot more examples, a lot more experiences through AI that they were not able to get before. And that's value to me. Huh? That's a return on investment to me, because the students graduate saying, "Oh, you know what? Harvard said this, and Oxford said that, and University of Toronto said that." Whereas before, you wouldn't have that level of debate sophistication with the students, right? Because they didn't have the time, right? They're doing 6 courses, and our program is very, very intensive. So where are they going to get the time, right, prior to AI to do all that? And that's how I've approached this whole question of factual correctness, ethical propriety, and contextualization. Because of course, AI can produce you all kinds of content, but it won't be contextualized. Huh? And so the next stage after that is you teach them some prompt engineering, right? To basically to contextualize their questions and show them how to be the leader of the AI and not the other way around through prompt engineering. Okay, I'll stop there because I
No,
know
I
again that
completely
I
agree.
want to hear what Aarsh has to say. I've been learning something every time he speaks. Yeah.
Same for me as well, and many congratulations to the framework you have suggested to students, because it's not that simple, but you have made it very simple for them, because
Yes.
getting everything together in one framework which they can understand very easily makes life easy for them. And I totally agree with you on the fact that it's not a challenge, but it's a tool which can be leveraged for more learning, because every time you talk to ChatGPT or talk to an AI system, it gives you multiple options which you can think more, so it increases the thinkability. So it's not just like if you see it from a lens that we're copying something from here and there. No, I don't think so. If you're getting into experiential learning mode, then definitely you're getting more information from different sources. You can try and test that. You can experience more learning. You can read out more stuff because you don't have to search more. Instead, you can focus more on productivity. That's really I totally agree on all of that. And in terms of biases and accuracies, I think we mostly covered about that. So I'll touch upon probably what doesn't need to be done. So basically, when you're dealing with assistants, my exam, one of the key things which I did initially was the chatbots which we developed had a certain training area, which was about mostly about like if something is to be trained, that's fine, but what the chatbot doesn't need to be trained on. So that is something which is very important, and we need to understand totally that okay, do's are fine, but we have to also take care of the don'ts, and that is where the challenges come on, because if chatbots are an open system, people can talk to it, they can ask anything. So if a chatbot is able to answer things which is supposed to answer to, well and fine, but if it's also able to tackle the queries which it's not supposed to handle, or something which is abusive, something which is discriminating, etc., so how do you handle that? Then it makes it more human.
Thank you, Arsh and Thomas, for sharing your information on how to tackle AI biases and inaccuracies is critical for maintaining fairness and equity in education. And by using, I also want to add some points over here that by using diverse data sets and robust validation processes, institutions can reduce the risk of bias outcomes. And regular monitoring and transparency in AI operations will further ensure that AI tools support inclusive and accurate educational decisions only. And this will, in the long run, foster trust and reliability in these technologies. So, coming on to the next myth, that how can AI education institutions, higher education institutions, and educators overcome the perceived complexity of AI implementation?
Yeah, that's an interesting. That can actually be part of a storytelling episode, because one of the things that you discover in higher institutions is that for good reasons and some of the not so good reasons, these are really conservative institutions, right? Institutions of higher learning, are quite conservative institutions, and they have a certain way of doing things, right? And the learning of people
Just a second, Thomas.
yeah.
Actually, I guess this live session doesn't want to stop you, because as soon as you take a pause, there is some issue with your voice, because there is some issue again.
So every time I stop talking, there's a
Yeah, this live session
oh,
doesn't want you to
that
stop,
suits
I
me
guess.
perfectly. Yeah. That suits me perfectly because I never stop talking. So that just no. As I was saying, that it can be part of a storytelling learning episode. I mean, what happens when you're one of the key AI people that takes a decision to lead AI within an institution? What do you encounter? Um, Here's what you encounter. You encounter the person that refuses to think it's anything significant, and they call it's just a tool. Huh? That's one of the first type of people you meet. The other type of person you meet is the person that doesn't want the orthodoxy of the system to be challenged. This is the way we've always done pedagogy. This is the way we've always done grading. This is the way we've always done our lesson plans and so on and so forth. And then you're going to get that group of population out there who just doesn't care. They're doing their work. They're good teachers, good professors. They love their students, but hey, I'm just doing my thing. Like I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm just doing it. When something comes along that's easy for me to uptake, I'm on. But right now, it's just too big for me to think about, and it's too challenging. So one of the key things to deal with in this is the tools have to get better. Huh? The tools for integration of AI into college settings need to be packaged better. They have to have easier interfaces. They have to be based on bots that can access multiple LLMs. They need to be based on. They need to have practical tools related to integrity, related to doing research, these kinds of things. Things that the professors can get up on really quickly. Because most of these professors, they're experts in their field. They don't want to become programmers. Right? I mean, that's not what they do. They want to be educators. And if this helps them educate people more, they will dive right in a big way. So I spend quite a bit of my time talking to uh, tech people on their products because, again, I don't do it for commercial reasons. It's purely a drive that I have on uptake and on equity considerations. And that's the next big thing to fully integrate. But along with that, then, because it's hard to engage in training of faculty yet, because people say, "Oh, you'll start training your faculty." Yeah, but on what? Like because the tools are so fractured. What we need to do is to get some coalescence around tools that are geared for integration into higher education. Then when we have the platform to train people on, then we can train. Because training is expensive, right? You don't just start doing training without sort of having the platform that you're going to want to use after you train them and all of those kinds of things. So a lot of things have to come together here. I mean, there's too much assumption out there that this is just going to happen. People throw out the word faculty training. Okay, get in the room with 10 faculty and start to plan out your training program. It's not going to be easy. Oh, I heard about this LLM. Oh, I heard about this LLM. Oh, I heard about this. I heard about that. And next thing you know, what are you training them on? Everything. These are realities of fully instituting AI into institutions, right? This is not something that you can do until you do some of the other things I was mentioning: your needs assessment, your strategic planning, your pilot, technological infrastructure, your pilot projects, and then when you come to some things, you can then start launching professional training situations, and then you can maximize your training dollars. You can maximize your impact by being more systematic like that. And until you get to that stage, it's going to be hit and miss in a lot of integration. But we're moving fast. Right? Like I mean, some of the tools are starting to get real close to what we need, real close. And you'll see that if you go onto my LinkedIn page, you'll see I have some things on there on R&D and comparing tools. And for anybody who might be interested, feel free to look through those papers. But because that's where I am right now. I'm just kind of saying this this is going to be a plus, but we need, like, I mean, you know, there's a faculty out there that wants to do maybe more intensive research. You need to put there's some of that needs to be in there. A little bit more needs to be in there on academic integrity. A little bit more, but nice fonts, nice windows to draw on 3, 4 islands at the same time. Nice everything else, but real, and it is nice. I mean, I love it playing with these things. But because there's to fully break in to these conservative institutions, there has to be like that the really, the case is a real winner. And once somebody adopts it, then it will be a competitive necessity for all the other institutions to do the same. And that's going to be the next big breakthrough in this area.
Yeah, totally true. And like also, as we indicated earlier, and Thomas also talked about the needs assessment. So that is something which is very important for getting over the perceived complexity of AI implementations for educators and institutions. Because ultimately, if we are able to understand the current platform, the current scenario which we have, and if we are able to then find out, okay, which are the areas, which is what blockers, issues, pain points in different segments, and try to segment the whole problem statement into the user journeys. So like we have to like mix and match these things where different personas coming into that whole ecosystem, how they operate into that ecosystem, what are the challenges they are facing. So we try to like document all of that, and then we go about the solution. So then the complexity of implementation will go. Definitely there's a complexity about adaptation as well. So adopting this technology, whether it is good for or the institution or not, or whether it is something which will be adopted by everyone or can be adopted by the whole length and breadth of the organization. That is something which also needs to be seen. And in that segment, I think probably a bit of education about perceived benefits or the benefits of this technology which will come into place for each and every stakeholder. Because as if you talk about the whole implementation of a solution for an organization, then definitely there'll be parties interested who will understand, okay, this is something which is good. And maybe from a technology standpoint, teams which are into technology, or maybe educators who want to transform the areas which they are working in. But if we start working on those lines where we try to understand, uh, let them understand, okay, these are the areas of benefit, areas which you can improve on, or which will get help on, which will reduce the effort which you're putting in. So having that kind of training sessions with different type of personas or the departments with a specific focus on benefits for them, how it will benefit them, how it will benefit their end customers, which is the students. So I'm talking about customers. It should not be perceived as a commercial word, but what we're talking about is that how we are delivering to someone, and the end user who's trying to get something out of you, to get the experience, the learning from the educator with so much experience, how they also get benefited. Then because for what I've felt like, I've taken some classes, I to take some classes. So when you get into the class mode, and you're trying to give something to the students and they perceive it, it's an immense pleasure to the educator. So when people start understanding that, okay, the student is getting some benefit out of this, if by implementing a technology they're getting assisted, they are getting more help through this technology, and also my effort is reducing, then definitely the adaptation problem will also get solved. So these are my 2 cents on this particular question.
Indeed, simplifying AI implementation through training and collaborative efforts empowers educators and institutions to embrace AI's potential. And by starting small and fostering a culture of innovation and collaboration,
I think, did we lose
Yeah,
Rochelle, or
I
okay?
think so. This time around it's maybe like
Okay.
yeah.
She's been doing such a good job summarizing these conversations that
Yeah,
distribution.
yeah.
yeah, we lost you there, Rochelle. I think it's probably the same thing that's happening to me. So
Hmm.
yeah. but I'm sure your summary was also excellent the way it was the last 3 times you did a summary. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was moving towards the next segment, that was the storytelling session. And here we want you, Thomas, to share a strategic success story where AI improve operations at a higher education institution.
Okay, as I was saying earlier, the institution of higher education are only now beginning to look at what AI will do in sort of substantially improve administration, right? I mean, they're just now beginning to fully get on board with that. We still have a lot of convincing to do on this to a lot of institutions. I mean, there's a couple of cases in North America where some things are being done on the administration side, but mostly the work that's being done on AI is being done in the classroom, right? And it's there that we're beginning to by experimenting things like in my program, we're beginning to see more changes. I mean, real impacts of AI in terms of the ability of the students to accomplish levels of understanding of complex concepts much easier. And I like to remind people that the principal job of a university or a college is to graduate students that year after year are more knowledgeable and more capable than the ones that came before. Administration is critically important in doing that, but at the end of the day, AI needs to start in the classroom and start with a focus on students. And so that's where I put most of my effort. But I also spend quite a bit of time saying, don't rush the administration side, because the administration side is going to be far more complicated, ironically, because you're going to need a lot of specialized tools at the administration level. I mean, and there's going to be much higher demands in terms of accuracy, security, all of these kinds of things. For example, if we're using AI to review applications for programs that have a waiting list, I mean, your regulatory and your civil liability risk goes through the roof. There can be a lot of risk to an institution adopting some of these things to important administrative decisions like that, or awarding grants, research grants, or student support grants. If you're using AI for that, again, a lot of regulatory and civil liability risk needs to be managed there. Or if you're streamlining students at lower levels of academia, again, a lot of really important considerations. These are much more specialized tools, in my view, and these tools need to be thought about, very carefully, particularly when there's already been a fair bit of automation in a lot of these functions at colleges and universities. Anyway, I think that's sort of one of those areas that kind of comes second. It's important, but my first foray into it would be data analytics. That's where it can make an immediate impact, because that's where a lot of colleges and universities are still weak. They're still weak on doing actually the data analytics of their own data, how the students are progressing through the system, how economically are we using our resources to get them through the system, how efficiently are we applying our physical resources, our budgetary resources towards the metrics of improving our student experience and outputs. These are the types of questions where I think AI goes into administration first. And those are the most important considerations. And I'm doing some of that now with the strategic plan work that we're doing, taking data that would have taken me 6 months to go through, and doing data analytics on it and reducing it to papers that people can actually read and understand. Is that what that means? Okay, all right, yeah. Now I can see why it's important, because the way we collect our data in colleges and universities is like, we do student surveys, we do comparison data sets with other colleges and institutions. We look at alumni pay, how fast did they get a job? It's endless. It's endless. And as an individual, you would not be able to draw the correlations or the causations between all of this data by yourself. It would take you forever. And even if you had the expertise, it would take you forever. And so to me, that's where AI in administration is going to make the most impact the fastest, and the most significant value added impact the fastest. The other processes, the normal processes, what I call the fixed processes, applications, admittances, awarding student grants and loans, these kinds of things, they're already largely automated, but they're not nearly as sophisticated as they will be. But initially, for administration, it's this stuff. It's the analytics. And that's where AI will make a huge impact on rethinking how we're getting the student outcomes that we strive for. Yeah, I'll stop there because I know Aarsh will have something.
Oh, definitely, that's very important. And I'll take a leaf out of one of the examples which we have done at Gravitas AI. So we are definitely working on different segments in education, like colleges, universities, schools, etc. And we also producing different kind of solutions for them. We have also launched a platform which is a holistic platform for managing student engagements, interactions, and then getting the information about leads, registrations, managing automated payments through the chatbot, etc. as well. But one of the use cases which is very close to my heart is delivering assistance on emails, because traditionally admissions team they face a lot of information queries. Queries come like the queries from emails, queries from phones, and the other modes as well. And we see like hundreds of emails coming into the inboxes, which is very difficult to answer. So, and most of these queries which we found, we were working with a very large university in India for a POC regarding this, and we found that like most of the queries are very common in nature. Typically, same kind of queries are coming repeatedly to these admissions department. They have to respond back to them, and some of them gets unanswered as well, which is not a very good experience as well. So we worked on an email assistant as a POC for them, and it has worked wonders. Where basically we have tested it on one certain segment, and done some user research, and they have to develop the solution and then put it to a live area of one of the departments, and we're able to like get a very good results with good accuracy of information provision through the bots by answering most of the questions. There are specific questions where the bot will definitely fail, but that is being transferred back to the admissions team as a queued up email. So that is something, a use case which I found very interesting, which we have recently developed on, and we'll definitely use that as a part of our platform also. So definitely there are multiple use cases as we get into the ecosystem, as Mr. Thomas also talked about that there are pain points in different areas. So as we keep on progressing to different departments, we'll find different kind of pain points which are there and ready to be solved. The only thing which you need to understand is you can't infuse AI into everything, but you have to find out where AI is useful for solving the problems, and where it has to be dealt only with the application level or some sort of basic solutions which are required. So we don't need to infuse AI everywhere to just for the sake of it, but we need to see how we can get it for optimization of productivity, and also it has to be a sustainable solution.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Thomas and Ash, for sharing such wonderful stories and use cases that highlights AI's transformative potential in higher education. And it also demonstrates its ability to enhance operational efficiency and student support. And by leveraging AI tools efficiently, these institutions can achieve significant improvements in retention, learning outcomes, and overall educational experience. So, moving towards the next question, that what are some key lessons learned from AI interventions that improve student outcomes in higher education by you, Thomas? Thomas, actually, you're not audible. We
Okay.
can't hear you. Yeah,
Yeah. Can you hear me?
now it's
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
You skipped out during your question. I didn't get all of your question because you went blank on my end as well. So could you
Okay.
ask me again?
Oh, Yeah, sure, sure. So, what are some key lessons learned from AI interventions that improved student outcomes in higher education?
Okay, that's an easy question. Yeah, so I just didn't get all of it. Yeah, I mean, to me, the lessons learned are that there's some key things that you have to do to institute AI in terms of teaching students what the limits of AI are and what the advantages of AI are. And that's where my Dump First principle and my AI use transparency form and the whole process, the focusing on the AI or the academic integrity system. That's where all that came from. And then the final one is uh, establish for yourself within your own program or your own courses how AI is transforming the quality of your students' learning and performance. A lot of professors will institute this, and they won't have thought about their metrics. How do I know if I'm being successful? How do I know if it's working? And the only metric is not it's making it easier for me because I do less grading of multiple choice questions. The metric is needs to be student achievement oriented, and those metrics have to be developed in such a way so that how AI is impacting your performance. I mean, basically it comes down to this for me: are your students stronger at the end of your AI integration than they used to be? And how would we characterize that? What would be the metrics? I mean, their writing is better. They're getting exposed to more material. I find their public speaking is more confident because they feel more knowledgeable because they've interacting with the AI, or they're practicing with the AI. All of these kind of tools, so that at the end of the day, professors can, all of this is fanciful unless we come up with clear metrics of saying that can say this is where it worked, this is where it didn't work as well as I was. So what am I doing wrong there? Should I do something a little bit different there to get the most out of AI? Yeah, let's not treat AI that way in this case. Let's treat it this way. Like, for example, they're using too much AI for their writing and they're not being critical enough. Well, you know what? Let's make the AI produce a paper, and then the grading situation is them critiquing the AI. And these kinds of things, right? And it's stuff like that is where the rubber really hits the road for professors. I mean, it's them when people say training, this is what I mean. Huh? I mean, if the interface is easy, it's easy for them to use the interface. When it's something that's been refined for them, they don't have to be a Python programmers or whatever, right? And so, really, the only thing they need to do is say, okay, how am I going to use this so that I see improvement on my metrics? That's what they need to focus on, and that's the training, right? That's the training that's needed. Well, okay, now we have the metrics. We want to see improvement. So what pedagogical changes will we make to take advantage of AI to see improvements on that metric? And if you structure the training that way, that makes it real for the professor, right? It's not technobabble. It's not something they're not interested in. It's something that they are interested in. Like, wouldn't it be cool if my 10% of superstar students became 25%? Wouldn't it be really cool if that could be, because most of the people that are in this profession, they really want to see their students do well, right? I mean, and that's the training that they need to think, and it's that kind of training. I don't talk about training. Let's do training with them on prompt engineering or tool design or I mean, that's not the training 99% of the professors out there need, right? 99% of them need to be able to say, okay, here's what I'm trying to do, my metrics. Here where I want them to end up after my first year of using AI, after my second year of using AI, after my third year of using AI. And here are some pedagogical ways that I can use AI to help move my metrics. That's the training they need, right? They don't need all this stuff that a lot of people talk about, like you see on LinkedIn. oh, try this prompt or try that prompt, or that's all fine. That's all fine for fun and games, but really, you need this more systematic approach, in my opinion. That's, mind you, I'm a research focused guy, right? I mean, so you can tell by my responses, they're very research focused, and Arsh's responses were, much more sensitive to the administrative questions. So it's good to have two different people on the call and approaching it from different avenues, and that's what AI teaches us, right? That this is such a complex problem. If we don't have multidisciplinary engagement, we're going to get a lot of things wrong, right? And that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Yep, totally agree with that. And like I'm learning a lot from your answers as well. In my understanding, and I could have given this question a pass. I'm not an educator, so I'm not the right person to comment on this question because I come from a commercial space. I do have a leg in the academic sector. I do some activities out there, but I'm not like as correct. I will not be as correct as Mr. Thomas on this one. But we also believe that it has to be user driven AI intervention where sequential growth needs to be pushed forward, and concept of test learn fail, that is to runs as a feedback loop, as a loop basically, because in different areas, when you're trying a new technology or anything, even if you're doing it something which is already tested, with different kind of inputs coming in and no new variables coming into the picture, there's always a possibility of failing. So there's no point like leaving the technology at that point of time, but trying to understand, as Mr. Thomas said, that okay, this is why I could not do it, or this is how I could have done it differently. So that is something which is very important, particularly for a student mindset. Having this kind of like thought process is very important, because then the ambition of learning more and trying to experiment more will increase, and as they experiment more, it will be much more meaningful for them to have the right kind of understanding of the concepts rather than just learning it from the books. So I think test learn fail approach, and keeping it moving so that we have sequential growth in how learning is perceived by them, that is very important.
Thank you for sharing these lessons, Arsh and Thomas. And these lessons underscore AI's potential to tailor educational experiences and enhance student engagement and improve overall outcomes. And by integrating AI thoughtfully and ethically, higher education institutions can better address individual student needs and foster a more inclusive and effective learning environment. So that's it for the day, and it was one of our most longest live session till now, and one of the most interesting ones also. So thank you for joining, Thomas, and thank you, Ash, for a thought-provoking discussion on optimizing operations with artificial intelligence in education sector. And both Thomas and Ash's insights were very transformative, and the potential of AI enhancing learning experiences and operational efficiency were truly enlightening. So thank you once again for joining.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Thanks a lot, Roshali. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you to all our attendees. Let's keep the dialogue going beyond today's session. Stay tuned for more enriching live discussion on the horizon. Thank you.
Teachers.